Coming up on Tech News Today, ISPs agree to 6 strikes law. We'll explain. Also, album sales rise? Why did they need the 6 strike law? And Murdoch kills his newspaper over the voicemail hack. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, July 7th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly, all streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And joining us today, we're very happy to have the editor-in-chief of Byte, Gina Smith.
Hey, nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Those of you who are thinking, what are you talking about, editor-in-chief of Byte? Byte went away in 1998. Byte is back as of this Monday, right, Gina?
Yes, July 11th is the big day for Byte. We've been working since January to bring this thing back, and we're coming back with Jerry Purnell and all the old Byte guys that you might remember. And if you don't remember them, we've got some new voices, too. So it's pretty exciting.
BYTE.com is back in action as of Monday. I'm very excited about that. I was talking to Gina before the show. I was a PC Computing magazine subscriber, and when they went under, my subscription got transferred to Byte, and I was a Byte reader for years after that.
Yeah, well, Byte was fantastic. I mean, there was, in its day, I don't think there was a more authoritative, trusted source for news. As a news reporter, I was at PC Week, at PC Computing, and PC Magazine. We'd always wait for Byte to see, because Byte always had the final word in tech.
Well, I'm very excited to see it coming back. We got some news to get to today, though, as well. ISPs have reached an agreement with the movie and record industry to throttle your connection, but not right away. It's not a 3 strikes law. It's a 4 to 6 strike law.
Well, what is it, 4 or 6?
It depends.
6,
yeah.
right?
It could be 4, it could be 5, it could be 6. Essentially, what's going on here is the ISPs have finally been worn down by the industry to introduce a sort of graduated response situation. The first alert is basically the industry finds an IP address that they say was infringing copyright. They send that IP address to the ISP. The ISP sends a note to the person who is identified with that IP address. Now, that person's identity is never given to the industry. There's no revealing of the identity through any of this. If you trust them, if you believe them, that's the way the agreement is set up. So they just send you a nice note saying, hey, some infringing content was found associated with your IP address. This is why copyright's important. Here's how to secure your network, make sure somebody else didn't get that. Here's what to say to your kids. The idea is to try to educate you. Then
That's pretty helpful.
The second alert is sort of a similar situation. They can redo it, or they can skip the second alert. That's why it's not always 6. They can skip right to the third alert, which is you have to actually acknowledge receipt of getting that same information. So they do the same thing over again, but they say, look, this is the second or third time you've done this now. We need you to actually read the stuff we sent you and acknowledge it. The fourth alert is that same thing over again, which I believe also can be skipped if they want to. There's a lot of variation in here. Then the fifth alert is where it gets serious. That's where, if the subscriber's account appears to have been used for content theft, they can actually introduce mitigation measures. So not only are they going to put up a redirect on your account so that you can't actually surf the web until you call them and talk to them, they can also at that point create a throttling environment where they would not throttle any VoIP services, email, or anything involving security or health services, but they might slow you down otherwise.
It seems like, at least on the surface, they're giving you many, many options to go,
in fact,
okay, I gotcha, I see what I'm doing wrong, I will change my behavior.
They don't have to mitigate you on the 5th. They can opt to wait and give you a 6th alert, and at that point they have no choice. That's when it finally, after 6 warnings, they are going to throttle your account. But the thing about this is, it does seem very reasonable. It seems like the point is education. But there is no judicial review. There is a vague appeals process, but that's handled by the ISPs, and you don't know who you're appealing to.
Yeah, you don't know who you're appealing to, and also they're considering you guilty before anybody has set you forth on a court of law. I mean, it's crazy. There's going to be so much litigation as a result of this, and the amount of greed involved, from the RIAA and everybody else. I mean, it's just terrible.
Well, the question is, how effective is this going to be? I mean, the ISPs have obviously fought tooth and nail not to do anything. It's very obvious in the way this is set up to where it's like they can keep kicking the can down the road, so to speak. Why even agree to it at all?
Well, this whole thing seems pretty wishy-washy in the first place. I mean, they don't have to do any of this stuff. It's all a voluntary group. The other thing is, what happens if one of the guys, one of these AT&T or Verizon says, we're not following this anymore? I mean, are they worried about the MPAA and RIAA saying, okay, now we're going to give you problems in the future? What exactly do they have to gain from even enforcing this? Because it just seems like it's an administrative nightmare for these guys to do this.
Yeah, we should point out it's voluntary, and so far it's AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Cablevision, and Time Warner Cable.
But if they have options to say, all right, we'll give you 4 choices, or we'll give you 6 options to get with the program, without having a standard, that's really confusing for users as well. I mean, I can see being like, hey, I know all about this because I ignore parking tickets as long as I can, right? So I know exactly how many warnings I get before I've got to pay up or before the price goes up, kind of thing. If there's no standard and you're not, you don't know how the different companies are working, relating to each other, then that's just a nightmare too.
Yeah, and that's exactly right, what Sarah just said. And also, they're positing this as education, which is crazy because what they're really doing is trying to help the RIAA and others to go after these folks who pirate stuff, and it's become so easy to do. If you have a Safari browser, you can go in and take any FLV or FLAV file, any movie that you want to, and convert it to an M4V format and watch it on your iPad. You can do that now with any movie that's on YouTube. And these ISPs saying that they can stop this somehow from happening. I mean, I think it's just lip service to the RIAA.
Well, this would have been maybe slightly effective if they'd implemented it 5 or 6 years ago when people were actually trading things on peer-to-peer networks. But folks have realized that that's not the way to go. It's too trackable, and they've moved on to other things. The other side of this argument is like, well, yeah, but you still need to do something to at least try to dissuade piracy and copyright infringement because it's hurting the industry. The industry's losing money. But that's our next story, is Nielsen SoundScan just came out with their latest figures, and for the first time since 2004, the recording industry has seen gains for a period of time. U.S. album sales for the first 6 months of the year grew 1%. That's 155.5 million albums, up from 153.9 million. Digital tracks grew 10% over last year, 660 million units. And when you do track equivalent albums on that, which is basically taking those 660 million tracks and dividing them by 10 to kind of give you an estimate of how many albums worth of sales you had, that increased 3.6%. So it looks like before any of this graduated response malarkey is put into place, things seem to be stabilizing, if not turning around for the recording industry as a whole. And what have they done? They've stopped suing people, and they've removed DRM from all their content. 2 of the things that they said they had to do to turn around the industry.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And what everybody really knows in the software industry and now in the record industry is that piracy is a great public relations and marketing tool. Microsoft never really cared that much back in the old days when people would make tons of copies of Word or Windows or whatever in Europe because it got the word out. And it's the same thing here. I mean, piracy actually helps sales, and they know that. And they pull back when they see that it helps.
Well, it's funny. We got a great conversation going on in the chat room as usual. Uncle Big Bad says, but you can hear any album online for free. Those stats can't be true, but they are anyway, because the thing is, just because you can hear it for free doesn't mean people are going to go to the trouble to find it for free. And in fact, Knox Harrington says, I gave up on piracy because I was tired of bad copies that weren't what they said and worrying I was going to get caught. So maybe that second part says, a little bit of a threat holding over people is a good thing.
The other thing is the record industry did a lot of things that changed. Like you said, no DRM. But the thing is, the price had gotten so cheap to get access to this music, or if you wanted to get a streaming service like Mog or RDO or Spotify or anything around around the world, you had access to really good quality stuff to the point where, like Knox Harrington was saying, there's no point in doing this anymore. Like if you have really expensive prices on movies and things, or you have these things locked down, like you get a Blu-ray copy and you have a DVD copy, a digital copy.
Well, and it's funny, on a side note, UK film illegal downloads up 30%. So the film industry, which is still locking things down in DRM, is actually having the opposite problem.
It's when there's an actual model out there. They tried this already. The record industry tried to lock everything down. It didn't work very well. When they loosened up, things worked out well for them. Maybe for the UK, they could take a look at, or they could take a look at the movies. The movie, I'm messing up here. The movie industry here.
You want the movie industry to look at the music industry?
Yes.
Okay, there
Thank
we go.
you. Thank you.
Well, the music industry has really come a long way. I mean, there's, I love these stats because it shows that people actually still buy albums. You always hear, oh, now everyone just buys single tracks now, and they're ruining everything, and the album is dead. It's like, well, you can buy albums, you can buy individual tracks, you can buy streaming services and pay a monthly subscription. There's some free options. It's like everyone the music it's too broad of an activity to say, here's your option, and you can either do this or you're infringing. With the more options, it makes people happier. People want to follow the rules.
I think the ISPs realized when they agreed to this ridiculous 6-strike rule that they would never get to 6 strikes on anyone.
Yeah.
They're just not. It's just not going to be necessary, and it's going to fade away. And I feel like they agreed to this because they just wanted the industry to leave them the crap alone. And they were like,
"That's it.
Go away. You bother me." Something else you're going to. Go ahead, Gina.
Ridiculous was a good word for this, for the 6 ISPs that agreed to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's lip service, like you said. And remember all those newspapers and magazines that used to try to make you pay to get their content? I mean, they eventually had to stop that. And the games that you had to pay for that are now free. I mean, people don't want to pay for this stuff, and they're not going to. And
we've got a little more on the games thing coming up in a second. Want to talk about News of the World first, though. We mentioned this earlier this week that News of the World was in hot water after it was determined that one of their journalists, actually a couple of their journalists, were working with private investigators to hack into the voicemail of a murder victim, and it interfered with a police investigation, and that was the last straw. Apparently, this had been going on, and it happened to the royal family, it had happened to celebrities, and News of the World is now going to shut down after 168 years in publication. James Murdoch, not Rupert, James Murdoch,
his son, I think
he's his son, head of News International, said no advertisements would run in this weekend's paper. Instead, the advertising space would be donated to charity, and proceeds from the sales of the paper would also go to good causes. And they will be just shutting down News of the World and taking those 200 employees and allowing them to apply for other positions, all because of some voicemail hacking that got somebody in hot water and was very unpopular with the public.
I was very surprised to hear that this was something that happened so swiftly, considering that News of the World is a very popular publication.
Yeah.
I would have thought they had more than 200 employees, but still, I mean, to have 200 people potentially not have other positions that they can just sort of transition into, it's pretty big deal.
This tabloid is owned by News International, which is owned by News Corp. So, I mean, the thing is, just by shutting down a label, and theoretically, if these 200 people get moved over, or if the editor that was in charge at the time moved somewhere else in News Corp, I don't think she is in there. If that happens, did anything really change? I mean, it's really about the behavior. If this is a culture that's allowed over there, they allow, if News Corp fosters this kind of behavior, and just by killing a brand, have they really solved the problem? Or are we just like, okay, that's some really good PR, what you did. You just killed that brand, and let's move these 200 people with some terrible
maybe over to the Sun, and then you put a Sunday edition out of the Sun. Gina, what you're about to launch a magazine. What do you think about this?
I saw this and I thought, who says journalism is dead? I am so impressed that reporters are even going through the work of trying to hack people's accounts. It's just it's unbelievable to me. But there's got to be something else going on here. Like Sarah said, it's crazy and surprising that they would just so swiftly come in and and kill it. There's got to be more that we don't know that's going on behind the scenes.
Well, the other thing to consider is that News of the World makes up less than 1% of the revenue generation of News International. So it's not a huge hit for them. And they may be looking at this saying the PR consequences are too hard to fight. We'll move them over to the Sun and the Times and maybe some other publications and just be done with it.
Behind the scenes, it might have been like, this is actually gives us an excuse to do something that maybe they've been kicking around internally anyway, just to say, hey, using ad space for charity and profuse apologies, let's just use this excuse to do something that we maybe already wanted to do.
Now, News Corp wants to acquire B-Sky-B, which is one of the big content providers in the UK. There's been a lot of concern about that, same concern that we had here in the United States when Comcast bought NBC Universal. And now there's questions about whether the government will use this incident as an excuse to delay or even change their mind about the acquisition. I don't know if that's going to happen. Most of the analysts don't think it's going to happen, but they were expecting approval to happen this week, and that's definitely not on the calendar now. Let's take a quick break and thank our sponsor Netflix at netflix.com/twit. I'll tell you why you want to go to that URL in just a second. It's worth it. Netflix streams thousands of TV episodes and movies to you instantly. I use it several times a week to watch movies, to watch old TV shows. They're always changing the selection, so you've always got something new in there to watch. And they have thousands and thousands of movies. You can watch them on your Mac, your PC, or iPad. You can watch them on your phone. You can watch them on some of the Android phones. They're rolling out to more Android phones all the time. And if you're like, you know what, I want to watch movies on a television. I want to watch television shows, Tom, on a freaking television. Well, you can do that too. Xbox 360, PS3, or Nintendo Wii puts Netflix right on your TV. Or even if you're like, I'm not into game consoles, Apple TV, Roku box, lots of different boxes out there can put Netflix onto your television. They're inexpensive. They're easy to use. You plug them in, you start watching movies, and you get unlimited amounts. You can watch as many movies or TV shows as you want, and you can do it for free for 30 days by going to that URL I mentioned, netflix.com/twit. Be sure to use that URL so we get credit, and pass it around. Don't be greedy with it. Tell other people about netflix.com/twit so they can get 30 days free as well. We thank them for their support of Tech News Today. All right, Gina, let's get to that story you alluded to a little bit ago.
The free games?
Yeah, there's a new study out from Flurry. Now, what Flurry does is they represent the apps that are being used. They analyze them. They're an analytics service, so they track the performance of more than 90,000 apps. They took a look at the 100 most popular iOS apps and compared how they're making money now versus January. In January, 39% of the top performing money-making apps used in-app free-to-play models. So in other words, 39% in January were free to download and made all their money from in-app purchases. Now, this month, that's up to 65%. So well over 50% of the games are making their money from in-app purchases, even though they're free to play. And the theory is people spend a lot more than 99 cents if you make it free and then charge them $5 for Mojo or in-game bucks.
On
or something
iPad today, we were just talking about this with Tiny Tower, which is like a huge hit out of nowhere. 8,000 people give it like 5 stars in the App Store. It's like, where did this come from? It was only released last week. Free to download, but not free to play if you want a good experience.
And we've seen a lot of different companies do the same thing. Microsoft is looking into doing free-to-play on Xbox. PC gamers can do this already. Do you think this is a function because this is iOS and people are willing to pay less for games because it's only 99 cents versus continuing to play? Or like even web games like Zynga does this with Farmville. It's free to play, but you could lose a lot of money playing with this thing. Do you think it's because of the iOS thing, or is this a larger game system that's going on right now?
I think
Go ahead, Sarah.
I think it's a lot of people who just like to download free stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of it, is that more people are downloading apps than ever before. And if you have already downloaded a lot, then you might be more inclined to download something that's free so you can try it out and there aren't any monetary repercussions if you don't like it.
Yeah, this is something that almost all the app developers know, and certainly in Silicon Valley, is that app developers make no money anyway. So only about 1% of anybody who makes an iOS app makes any money, and of those, only a tiny, tiny percentage of those, are doing the in-app purchase stuff. I mean, and now LoadSys is suing all those guys. Have you guys been following
You
that?
got to watch out for that too. Yeah, we've talked about that. The fact that they're suing the New York Times of all people.
It's crazy.
That's a war that has yet to be resolved now as well.
Yeah, but even Zynga in this in the reports has said it's just a very tiny percentage of its users that are active enough that are actually buying the bucks or the flowers or the virtual gifts.
But you don't need that many. More than 90% of the players never spend a dime, but you're still making more money by giving it away because you catch those few that just really get into the game, and they have to have more crops, or they have to build more tower levels, or whatever it is. They get sucked in, and it's stimulating their amygdala so much that they'll pay $5 a week, to get an advantage in the game.
Well, it's great that you said 90%, because that is exactly, if you go around venture capital firms, they'll always tell you that 10% of users of anything are active users. So this is following that same rule that a small percentage of users are the ones responsible for all of the activity and churn. So
and that makes it very interesting that eBay today just acquired Zong. Now, you may not have heard of Zong, but Zong enables consumers to post payments to their mobile phone bills, mostly to pay for virtual goods inside of games. So this is a good thing for eBay. They're paying $250 million in cash. They say they're going to allow Zong to continue as a standalone entity initially, although they intend to integrate it as much as they can into PayPal and start raking off a little bit of that money that's coming from those in-app payments.
Now, we haven't heard much from eBay recently. I mean, they've been a little quiet the last couple of months when a lot of other companies were in the spotlight. But why am I not making the connection between eBay and virtual goods in games?
Yeah, think of it less as don't think of it as people taking their virtual goods and auctioning them off.
Yeah.
Think of it more as PayPal. PayPal's trying to be everywhere. So it's less about the eBay product and more about the PayPal product of we want to be the default payment option for everything.
That's it. I mean, that's exactly it. These mobile payment tech wars are going to be huge, and whoever solves this problem is going to solve the multi-billion-dollar question. And, this whole swipe to pay issue or put in your phone number to pay, nobody's been able to solve it because nobody's been able to lock down the back-end companies that control payments, which include First Data. Well, there's a bunch of them. There's 5 main ones. And I think if you followed that Google mobile payment announcement, they announced that they had locked down 2 of the 5. And so my guess is Zong must have done something here that made eBay pay all that money for it. They've probably locked down some of those back-end companies. And it's a real interesting thing, the mobile payment.
Yeah, everybody's scrambling to get into mobile. Right now, PayPal's there, but it's a little clunky. It takes you out of the experience. You have to sign into your PayPal account, and then it has to re-verify.
But it has brand recognition. Everyone knows what PayPal is, what PayPal does. Many people have accounts. It is a little clunky, but it does work. I know that eBay says at first Zong and PayPal are going to be 2 different entities, but they want to incorporate them or merge the 2 as soon as possible. Let's hope it's sooner than later, because then they really have something good going on.
Take that Zong ability to just say, I'm going to take all these in-app payments, put them on my Verizon bill, my AT&T bill, and then call that PayPal. Yeah. And now you've got huge PayPal branding, and you can start to say, pay by PayPal everywhere you go.
Do you think that'd actually be on the carrier level instead of it being, I don't know, an app level based thing? Because I'm thinking if you buy an app, you're going to be in the Apple App Store universe. You're going to be using your iTunes credits. Well, kind of thing.
This is outside of Apple for the most part, probably, because Apple takes care of what Zong does for their phones. But if you're on an Android phone and you're on a Windows phone, Zong may be in there handling a lot of those payments for you.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. These merchants move really slowly. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you think banks are bad, you should see the mobile payments business. It takes them years and years to decide, whether they're going to go with Google or, in this case, eBay or Apple and Square or whatever it is going to be. I mean, it's going to be a while before we see true swipe to pay at any merchant with your iPhone, because there's 9 layers of companies that need to all agree.
I do think banks are bad. That's why I use a credit union.
Yeah, good. I use a credit union.
Put my money under my mattress.
Yeah,
that's how you know
that's
it's safe.
That's the only way to be sure.
With a gun.
You're one of those people who doesn't trust the cloud for anything.
No.
Yeah. Apple is developing fixes for that dangerous iOS vulnerability called the jailbreak that we mentioned yesterday. Jailbreakme.com, if you don't know, is out now for iPad 2 and lots of versions of the iPhone as well. One vulnerability they exploited to do the jailbreaking exploited a PDF vulnerability in how iOS parses fonts within the mobile version of the Safari browser. Another vulnerability they used circumvents address space layout randomization, ASLR, which changes the way the data is stored in memory so that it's not as easy to read. Alan Healy, Senior Director for Corporate Communications in London for Apple, said, Apple takes security very seriously. We're aware of this reported issue, developing a fix that will be available to customers in an upcoming software update. You can already get a patch, though.
Right. They immediately made it available.
Well, Apple didn't make it available, but the hackers did.
Well, that's exactly it. And it's going to be that same race, where they patch it and then the hackers come in. And
well, the hackers have actually made a patch. Comex published a fix for the vulnerability in PDF. There's like, look, jailbreak it, take advantage of the vulnerability. Then once you're jailbreaked, download PDF Patcher 2, and that'll fix the PDF fix, so you don't have to worry about stumbling across some spear phishing attempt with a nasty PDF out there.
I think we've seen
I wonder
hackers.
if people are going to run around to all the Apple stores right now and try to hack into the iPads sitting around with the PDFs.
Well, there's some PDFs in the wild out there, so if you know the URL, that's a danger.
I mean, we've seen hackers do this before, where they actually you can use a exploit and make your phone jailbroken, and then they issue their own patches. So this is something that Apple's probably going to stare at and go, you know what, we can just copy that code, and we'll fix it ourselves, and we'll see the patch soon. Yeah,
in August of last year, Apple patched a pair of bugs used by Jailbreak Me in 10 days after the tool's release. So,
wow,
July 17th.
Wow.
We'll see an Apple patch. Until then, you can use the Jailbreak Me patch. But you have to jailbreak your phone to use the Jailbreak Me patch. Just kind of a weird
meta
sort of conundrum that you're in. You have to exploit the vulnerability to fix the vulnerability.
Apple hates us, but then they'll thank us.
Yeah.
They hate me too. The thing about Apple, though, and I mean why they're so vocal suddenly about the security issues, is all the enterprise companies will force you to use a BlackBerry, which is a terrible thing. Just because the BlackBerry is a terrible thing, but they do that because that's the only one that conforms to the SAML standards and all the real security standards, and you have to sneak your iPhone under the firewall or your iPad, but that's so Apple understands that all these enterprises won't go with the iPhone or the iPad if they think it's not secure.
Yep.
But it'll never be secure.
No, it's always an arms race for sure.
Always an arms race.
Let's move on to the news fuse. Recently, Dropbox changed the terms of service, which caused people to panic again because it looked like Dropbox was claiming some broad ownership of all of your files. There was some mitigating language in there, but yesterday, on a Dropbox blog post, the company made it clear your stuff is yours and yours alone, and they revised their terms of service yet again to make that point even clearer. Doesn't mean people won't have left Dropbox.
Dropbox is pretty great. Do you think a lot of people left in a huff?
They've angered a lot of people. Yeah.
Well, if you've left Dropbox, let us know. A developer by the name of Jeff Rose did some rummaging in Facebook's video plugin code and found something called Facebook Vibes. Whoa. From the code, it looks like Facebook Vibes will be a downloadable piece of software and it's possibly related to a cloud music service. There have been rumors of a Facebook music service for some time now, so the race is on. What will launch first in the U.S.? Spotify or Facebook Vibes, or are they the same thing?
Spotify Vibes.
Project Vibin.
Okay.
I don't know.
Apple speculation time. Yes, again, the Wall Street Journal says that the next iPhone will be thinner and lighter than the previous edition with a fall launch date. Added to that there's a rumor of yet another iPhone, possibly iPhone 6. That's right, 6.
What?
That will use a new method of charging, possibly inductive, and one more rumor, a new iPad dubbed iPad HD with double the resolution of the current iPad will launch and will be sold alongside the current iPad 2, kind of like an iPad Pro.
Oh, and then there's the iPhone Cure that cures all of your illnesses.
We'll find out in September.
Yeah. The U.S. District Court for Northern California says that Amazon can call its App Store App Store. Apple filed for a preliminary injunction to stop Amazon from using the term App Store, but it was denied. Court explained that Apple did not establish the likelihood of confusion, but also said that App Store is not necessarily a generic term. So there's still a case to be had.
Is it one word App Store or two words App Store? Because I feel like those are almost two different things, like brand name or...
Wow, now you're talking like a lawyer.
I know.
Very good.
I've been hanging out with Iyaz. That's what happens.
Hanging out with lawyers.
All right. Users at Amazon's Cloud Drive can now get unlimited MP3 and AAC storage for $20 a year. That deal is running for a limited time, but there's no end date announced. Any MP3s bought on Amazon will be free to store as well. And on top of that, Amazon also announced iPad support for its Cloud Player. But it's web only. There's no native app. But you might like that.
The Internet Engineering Task Force is considering forming a group to ease the transition to IPv6 for home networks. This would require standardizing protocols so equipment from different brands would play nicely together. This is new stuff from IETF, which is used to designing standards for big enterprises, not systems for two game consoles, a home server, and a Wi-Fi access point.
Where's your big iron, Mom? Oh, you only got an Xbox?
No, we'll get
we don't know how to deal with that.
We made Byte IPv6.
Hey, all right, that's good.
So,
you're future proofed. Back in December, China said it would export fewer rare earths, which is troublesome considering China currently produces 97% of the world's supply of rare earths. The World Trade Organization has made a ruling on that move and says China broke international law by curbing the exports. China's vice commerce minister says that China will comply with the WTO's ruling, but they don't have to be happy about it, and an appeal is expected.
Interesting. So not only have more rare earths been found, but China may not be able to say, all for us.
Once again, it's things like Neodymium, not the album by the rock group.
Yes.
Insiders are saying that Apple has cut rates of its iAds by as much as 70% because companies are using other methods to advertise on Apple's devices. Apple used to charge $1 million or more to clients like Citigroup, for example, but is now offering deals in the range of $300,000 to $500K. Developers were also disappointed by the amount of money iAds generated for them and have branched out to other advertising means. You take too much, Apple. You lose. Good day, Apple.
iAds, or did I get disconnected? What happened there?
Yes.
iAds, not iAds.
Oh, okay. I totally missed that. According to a somewhat reliable Twitter user at MSFTTM, Microsoft will release a pre-beta copy of Windows 8 at its Worldwide Partner Conference. Whether or not Windows 8 is released at WPC, Microsoft is expected to detail Windows 8 at the conference, and a public beta of Windows 8 is also expected this September.
When is that conference? I think it's July 11th in LA. Is that right? Something like that.
Something like that.
They have so many
next
conferences,
week.
Microsoft.
So,
let's move on to the randomizer. I know most of you out there were very sad about the cancellation of All My Children and One Life to Live, but don't worry, they will live on. Not on the TV, but on the internet. ABC says it has licensed the two long-running daytime dramas to LA-based production company, I don't know their name, in a multi-platform deal that enables the soap stories to continue beyond their finale dates on ABC.
Prospect Park.
Thank you,
name
Prospect
of the production
Park.
company.
So I guess ABC says we can't make money off these, but if you think you can, we'll license the name.
I'd love to see if they try to do a new spin on the soap. Some people watch soaps. I know some people were disappointed by this.
Who, Jason, do you watch?
Hey, don't out me on the show.
Listen, I watched a lot of
soaps.
All My Children as a kid, but it's very formulaic, some of the shots and the light and everything. It's very old school. It'd be kind of neat to see if they could get any traction with the soap type of serial model online that does something new.
We could do it really cheaply. I mean, soap operas are produced really cheaply with the same shots,
right?
Real close.
But if it's so cheap to do, and your audience is at home during the daytime, how are you going to make enough more? If you can't make enough money to do it on ABC, how are you going to make enough money to do it for an internet audience? I just don't.
Well, I think it wasn't that cheap to do the old way. I mean, you've got all these people that you're paying, and these big fancy sets, and all these folks in the control room. One of my cousins works on General Hospital, so I know this.
I'm getting a call.
Yeah, that's funny.
Prospect Park is wondering if we're doing anything with the cottage after we move out.
Yeah, it's called All My Nerds.
Yeah.
Starring us.
In a tiny, tiny room. Yeah. Now, I think the All My Children news is really exciting. I worked at ABC News, and we used to get to go down and watch the taping of All My Children and One Life to Live. And there's some hardcore fans. Like Sarah said, she watched it in high school. There are people who've been watching it since high school, and when all the characters were 17 and are now grandparents on there. And I think those people are online, and I think they'll watch it. Like
Susan Lucci.
Susan Lucci.
Coming to our browsers, Gina.
That's
really
I'm
bonding.
actually really excited about it. I want to see what happens with Susan Lucci and Ryan Lavery and all the
Can't
characters.
put Susan Lucci in a corner.
Nobody puts Susan Lucci in a corner.
No.
Put her on the
Nobody.
internet.
That's
right.
right.
And nobody stops Sarah Lane from doing the calendar.
The Motorola Droid 3 is now available online at Verizon's site. The phone's going to hit stores on the 14th, and it's pretty cool. A lot of cool specs, but no 4G. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to have to look elsewhere. Rogers Communications just turned on its LTE network today in Ottawa and will expand to Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver in the fall. So if you're...
Is this enough for me to get the...
If you're from Canada, that's pretty good news. But no, that's not enough, Tom. Put away your Canadian money. Don't show that here. If you subscribe to the New York Times on a...
Disgusted. Oh, really disgusted by foreign money.
To the New York Times on a Kindle. I'm just jealous because I like to collect stuff. I don't have those. You can now access all of the NewYorkTimes.com for free. Kindle users, listen up. No paywall for you.
Starting
That's awesome.
today. Awesome.
The final space shuttle launch, as you know, is scheduled for tomorrow, July 8th at 11:26 a.m. Eastern Time. However, there's a 70% chance of bad weather, and it might delay the last takeoff, which is a bummer because we know a few people who are down there and really excited and hoping that it'll happen as scheduled. Trey Ratcliffe, for example, whose birthday is today.
Him and his gorgeous photos.
Happy birthday, Trey, and your HDR whizziness.
Your talent.
Ugh. He's actually going to be shooting the shuttle launch with Leo's N70. So
cool.
Whatever he ends up shooting is going to be awesome. Let's just hope that it's on time.
It wouldn't be a space shuttle launch without interminable weather delays.
That's the way it goes, right? It's Florida.
It's Florida.
Samsung Series 3 and the new Series 9 are available for pre-order at JNR Electronics. That's that store in Manhattan. We talk about them all the time. The Series 9 is still going to be shipping in August, and the Engadget folks think that the Series 3 should launch around the same time, so look out for those.
Those are some sexy laptops, I gotta say.
You said sexy.
Yeah.
I did.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Let's move on to the voicemail before I say it again. We got a video voicemail about the name of the next iPhone. Here's a theory.
Here it is. Go ahead and play.
Go ahead.
Here it is.
I pulled over to record this. There's something that you guys missed yesterday in your discussion of what the new iPhone could be named. If you recall, we went from the original iPhone to the iPhone 3G, and then to the 3GS, and then to the iPhone 4 now. Well, since they did not incorporate 4G technology into the iPhone 4, how about this? They released the new iPhone 4G, and they changed the name of the iPad to the iPad 4G, and from here on out, or at least for the next little while, they stay on the same naming sequence. Love the show. See you guys.
First of all, I think that might be Scott Johnson's southern cousin. Second of all, I don't see them putting 4G in the next iPhone. It's just not rolled out enough for Apple.
Oh, yeah.
Of all the rumors we've seen, a 4G antenna was not one of them yet.
No,
Right? We've
well,
seen thinner,
there has
faster.
been. I've seen that rumor.
Well, it's not
but
the one
it is
that
one of
keeps
the less
popping up.
frequent rumors.
Okay.
Yeah.
With frequency, it's not there right now.
There's a rumor for everything Apple. Just make something up. Someone's already said that it might happen.
Gina, what do you think? iPhone 4G?
No, I'm with you. I
right.
think he's wrong.
All right.
I liked his accent in his truck, though.
Sorry, man. Thanks for sending in the video, though.
Thanks
It
for
was-
pulling
it was a
over.
good thought, even though we all thought it.
And by the way, if you're right, we owe you
Yeah,
a
exactly.
truck.
You get
How about
Tom
a
will
truck?
buy it with his Canadian
truck?
money.
A
Right.
truck-shaped cake. That's what.
A Tonka truck
a magnetic truck.
that flies.
Yeah. All right.
Mud flap.
On to the emails. TNT at twit.tv. Jason Reed wrote in and said, hey, that flying car y'all were excited about earlier this week, there's already one out there, a car that flies and is FAA approved from a group called iTech. You can find it at itechusa.org/maverick.html. There it is in action on YouTube right now. Of course, this one's not as car-like as the one
is
that
more
we talked
Wright
about.
Brothers.
This
Yeah.
is more like Mario Kart-ish.
Yeah.
As opposed to the other thing, which is like a drivable.
But hey, it's a flying car.
There you go.
Who am I to complain?
Yeah. It'd be kind of hard to land that thing. Next email from Jeremiah Wooten, who says, I tried to sign up for Google+. I was met with a terrible surprise. Apparently there's an age limit. I put in my birthday, and it said you must be over a certain age to use this feature. It won't let me go back and do anything with Google+ from that account. I'm 14. I can use all other Google features, but for some reason, I can't use Google+. If Google doesn't allow Google+ to younger audiences, like me, teenagers, I can't imagine that it will succeed. I don't know what the actual age limit is, but apparently you have to be older than 14. I'm very dissatisfied. Jeremiah, I mean, I can imagine, because so many people are trying so hard to get into Google Plus that if you're already in and then it's like, oh, now you're too young and you can't participate. What's going on?
Okay.
14.
Now,
too.
13 is the
cutoff.
COPA.
13
Yeah. So my first thought is that his birthday is in there wrong, or he's not quite 14 yet. And
Is he
it's
just
reading
rounding
him
up
as
because
13 and blocking him.
Because he's almost 14?
But then there's some people, Gallifrey Rebel says it is 18, that you have to be 18 to use Google+. Maybe they're just limiting it to 18 and over.
And if you're under 18, don't you already change your birthday online? I mean, you don't want anyone to think you're under 18.
We're not saying that you should, because that's absolutely wrong to do.
There's no
Gina's
easy way to do
Isn't
that.
that what everybody does?
I'm sure everybody does that.
Yeah.
And with this Google Plus invite thing, have you guys been experiencing this? I mean, because it's supposedly exploding. I have 2 email accounts, and they're inviting each other constantly to Google Plus without any interference on my part. I mean, this whole Google Plus thing seems very strange. It's kind of automated. It's automating invites out of my Gmail account to everybody on Gmail, like in spurts.
They've also got this. They're turning on and off the ability to invite. We had those. I haven't seen that in days.
I saw the
People
invite
keep
pop
asking
up.
me for invites, and I can't do it.
Yesterday it popped up, and it was like for 2 hours.
Right. And
It's
so
invite
a bunch
time.
of people were trying to help out, and then they get closed down, and everyone gets confused. It was public for a short time over the weekend. That's gone. I just don't know. I guess they're trying to invite people, but then shutting down the gate, so only a few people trickle in.
Yeah.
And Google, this whole idea where they say, we do know evil. And then you get this comment coming from them. We took it down because it was so popular. I think they took it down because it was so buggy, and they were having so much trouble sharing photos and meshing circles and all this stuff. And
I didn't have any of the bugs myself. Did you guys?
No,
Anybody
it
else?
runs pretty smoothly, actually.
I couldn't get any photos to share. I couldn't.
That sucks.
I have some UI issues, but nothing that I would consider a bug. It's just stuff that I hope that they change in the future to make it more enjoyable to use.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad it's out there. Facebook needs some competition, certainly, and this gives a lot of people an opportunity to do a do-over. If they're like me and they're a social slut and they've kind of accepted everybody who's ever asked to be their friend, now you can create maybe a more selective network.
Now I don't feel so bad about saying sexy earlier.
Because I just called myself a social slut.
Yes, makes you good.
Yeah, I live for that.
All right. Well, and Gina, thank you so much for being on the show. I got a couple of things I want to talk about before we re-emphasize the Byte launch. First of all, technewstoday.reddit.com, folks. If you want to submit stories for us to consider for the lineup, B, like Wilson Landby, PC Guy 999's in there every day. Enjoy What You Have 83, JDS 1999. A.G. Jimenez and Flash Cider and more, all submitted stories at technewstoday.reddit.com. We've got 1,147 readers in there, so even if you don't want to submit, go in and vote them up and down. And don't forget the bricks! We've got to buy an extra video router, so we need you to buy a few more bricks if you can. What it does is it puts your name, your message, your logo up in our lobby on the wall for everyone to see. bricks.twit.tv. So go over there, check it out. Gina, I'm very excited about the launch on Monday. Remind people again what's going on with Byte.
We're bringing Byte back. Byte was around from 1975 to 1998. And in January, the company that purchased it from McGraw-Hill back in 98, which is the company I work for, UBM, decided to bring Byte back. So Byte stands for Deep Tech coverage, super deep tech, real authoritative, hardcore tech journalism. And we'll be back up Monday. Right. And we're doing a show with you guys. We'll have a Bytecast right out of your new studios in August.
Excellent.
Hosted by me, I think.
Yes. check it out, byte.com, folks. Starting Monday, you'll actually have the full-on magazine right there. Gina, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for asking me. It's a blast. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, everybody, for watching. twit.tv/TNT is our URL if you would like to find us on the www. You can also email us, tnt@twit.tv, or give us a call. Our Google Voice number is 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll see you tomorrow.